Hello Flosstube friends, today is Friday, June 5th, 2026. My name is Audrey Marine and this is a channel all about cross stitch. It has been almost a month since my last regular Flosstube episode. I have had a few Stitch With Me videos in the meantime. I hope you've checked those out. If not, I will link at least the last one below so you can watch that if you are so inclined. Even though it has been almost a month since my last regular Flosstube update, I only have a few whips to share with you because I have spent many days since that last episode dedicated to one particular project, and I am so glad to say that I have finished it. It is a beautiful piece, and I'm very excited to eventually get it framed and hung on my wall. Besides that, I do have some purchases to share with you today, and I know I don't always have hauls, so I hope you stick around for that. And then I have two little fully finished things that I got back from Greta at Stitchwork Design Co. A couple more animal crackers. If you follow me on Instagram at StitchBead, I'm sure you have already seen everything that I'm going to share with you today, but you know, it's nice to see it on video, right? So let's start with Maria Wales Newson. This is a piece that I have talked about, I think, every Flosstube episode since January. I'm sorry, but it will be done this year. Come hell or high water, it will be done this year. This is a ginormous piece from Hands Across the Sea Samplers. I am stitching it in conjunction with a bunch of other people who are participating in this SAL that is being led by Judy Hall on the Friends of Hands Across the Sea Samplers Facebook group. That is always a mouthful. Sometimes I get it out well and sometimes I don't. If you're interested, yeah, the stitch count is 295 wide by 413. So when I say ginormous, I really mean it. But I am delighted to say that I am, as of this moment, caught up. I have not started on the June section, but I did finish the May section, which is that house and all the grass that it's sitting on. That is over 5,000 stitches right there. It's a lot of stitching. So I'd say this month's section, the section for May, was probably the easiest section to do, but it took as long as these first sections. Let's see. So January started right about here and went down to about here. I remember that took about a week, and same with this house on the lawn. It took 6 or 7 days to get that all done. Over 5,000 stitches. It was a lot of stitching, but very easy, because once you kind of, once you get the windows marked out, you just build a big red square around it. Very easy to do. And then this month's section for June, we basically just do this bit here in reverse over here. Easy peasy. I am stitching this on 46 count lichen from Tabby Cat Linens. It is the called for linen, sort of a greenish gray color, and I'm using the called for 100.3 silks. Those are the spooled silks, and you can just use them right off the spool. No need to separate anything. Makes it very easy to use. That's one of the reasons that I really like them. Also, they're very tightly twisted, and so it's easy to do pin stitches with them. And the thread doesn't fray as much when you get to the end. It doesn't fray as much as cotton or soie d'Alger. So very easy to use and looks great on 46 and even 56 count. A lot of people also use them on 40 count and like the coverage there. So that's just one of those things. If you're interested in trying the 100.3 silks, I'd say try them out on 40 count, 46 count if you're comfortable with that thread count, and see which one offers you the coverage that you like best. So next Flosstube episode, I should have this June section to show you, and then maybe I will already have started on the next one as well. Who knows? So a lot of time, as I said, a lot of time since my last regular episode has been dedicated to working on this piece. This is William Curtis, 1826. Another Hands Across the Sea Samplers chart. Absolutely beautiful. This was released at the same time as the Queen of the May. This is what Nicola is calling the Lord of the May. I did not purchase the Queen of the May. It's just too big. I'm not afraid of large projects, but it's too big, and also I wasn't absolutely in love with it. And also I have 2 other charts that feature many of the same motifs, picturesque items in that chart. So I figured I really don't need that chart. Maybe one day when I finally run out of stuff. I was talking to my husband and I was telling him about how, assuming I had the thread for everything, I have enough charts to keep me busy for at least a decade. And he was like, really? And I said, yeah, between everything I've purchased and everything I've been given, assuming I had threads for everything, I could keep stitching just from stash for a decade. He's like, I had no idea you had that much. And I was like, well, think about all the stuff I've been given and all the stuff I bought. So this is my William Curtis. I absolutely love this piece. And also it was just really fun to stitch. So fun to stitch. I mean, I did this top section with the alphabets in just a few days because I loved it so much. Tons of 4-sided stitch, which takes a long time, but looks really cool. I know it's not everybody's preference, but I do love it. And then these larger letters are done in eyelets, Algerian eyelets. And I absolutely love stitching eyelets. This verse here is over 1. I used Soie sur Fin for that as well. So all the call for 100.3s, except I used Soie sur Fin for the letters here because they're so tiny. Sawtooth satin stitch border on the top and the bottom of that section there. And then you can see more satin stitches in those flowers there. You can see how it gleams in the sunlight. It looks so nice. Now the sawtooth, I stitched that using 2 passes of the thread, but the flowers here, I used 3 passes. So they are they look like they're padded. I don't know if you can see that. Yes, you see how it sits up off the fabric. I've had some questions about satin stitching lately, specifically because I've been showing this so much. My last 3 Stitch With Me videos featured this piece. And people were asking about satin stitch. How many passes do I use and how tight do I make it? Without being right next to you and without being able to work with you in person, I don't know how to answer those questions adequately. So I can tell you that for the sawtooths, 2 passes. For these flowers down here, I used 3 passes. But if you were to use Soie d'Alger for these flowers down here, you might only need 1 or 2 passes with your thread. It's all personal preference. I would say as you are putting in satin stitches, just do 1 pass, see if you like it. If it's not enough for you, do a second. If it's still not enough for you, maybe do a third, but then maybe on the next project, consider a fluffier thread like Soie d'Alger, because Soie d'Alger is quite a bit thicker than Soie 100.3. And I actually did consider ripping this out, this flowers satin stitches out, and replacing it with Soie d'Alger so it would be puffier. But after I was done with the whole piece, I spritzed it and ironed it, and everything puffed up and straightened out. So it's very nice. I saw a question recently on the Friends of Hands Across the Sea Samplers Facebook group. Somebody was asking about ironing and how do you iron in this? And a few other people, you know, chimed in with how they do it. And you put a towel down and then you put your piece down and you put another piece of fabric on the back and then you iron it. And that's all well and good if that works for them. But I'll tell you guys again, I know I've talked about this before, but I have a wool ironing mat. It's pretty thick. It's at least 1/2 inch thick. It's a wool ironing mat. You can get them from like Fat Quarter Shop and stuff because it's really for ironing little blocks and stuff for quilting. And I put my piece face down on that and I spritz the heck out of it with clean bottled water. I purchased 1 spray bottle that like spritz mists, and I only put clean bottled water in it, and I've only ever used it for this purpose. I spritz the heck out of it, even with these over-dyed fabrics, and then I heat my iron up and iron it as much as it needs to be ironed, and I've never had any issues. I use SWA 100.3s, which to me seem to be color fast. I've never had any problems with bleeding. And I've also done it on the pieces that I have used with Roxy Floss, and I've never had any issues with bleeding. So I know that a friend of mine had recently an issue with Soie d'Alger. She stitched something with Soie d'Alger, realized that it was wrong, and had to take out a pretty significant chunk of border. And in doing so, she saw that the Soie d'Alger had bled a little bit into the fabric. And to my knowledge, she didn't even iron it or anything and didn't get it wet. So I don't know what the issue was there. So that's why you're always recommended to test before you wash, before you dampen, before you iron. I mean, you gotta take chances, I guess, if you wanna get these wrinkles out. Also, you could probably just send things to your framer wrinkly, and the stretching itself will eliminate any hoop marks, I would hope, I would guess. But I like to iron my pieces. I do not wash them after I'm done. I don't even, soak them in warm water with a little bit of Dawn. I don't do that. I know some people like to wash their pieces when they're done, but I do not do that. I do, however, spritz them liberally with clean bottled water and use a hot iron on the back. And I don't put a towel down. I don't put any piece of cloth in between the back of this and the iron. So do with that what you will. I am not responsible for any bleeding flosses. Just gonna put that out right there. But William is done. I am so excited. This is probably my second favorite piece that I have ever finished. And I have finished a lot of pieces. And if you're wondering what my first is, it's Maria Ewan, and I'll put a picture right here. Maria is a piece that I finished a couple years ago. I remember I finished it in August of 2024, I believe. And I just love it. I loved stitching it, and I love looking at it. I love the finished product. So if you were kind of on the fence about Maria, know that it is beautiful. The finished product is beautiful. And I stitched Maria on 45 count jersey cream from Legacy Linens, which you can purchase at Hoop and Frame and other LNS local needle workshops. And then I used the called for 103s for her as well, but I used Swasserfine for that over one verse, the Lord's Prayer, because very, very tiny little letters, easier to do them in Swasserfine. But William is done, very happy with that. After finishing William, I really wanted to start something new. But I thought I should go through my whips and kind of just really familiarize myself with what's in this drawer, what's in my project bags that are down here, and then also what's been chucked into this drawer over here and has been left to just decay. And I had a couple other things that I was considering, but then I saw this, the Alexanders of Lintrathen, and I was like, oh yeah, I got a decent start on that. I will put a photo in here of where it had been when I last showed it to you guys. I got a nice corner in, but I thought, well, I need to actually open up the fabric and familiarize myself with this piece. And I'm so glad that I bothered to open up the fabric, because when I did, I was reminded of just how beautiful the colors look on this linen. So you can see I have done quite a bit more on this piece. I'm using all the called for colors. I'd say that right there is pretty true to life. And you can see my little tag sticking out there. This is 46 count dark mocha beige from XJU. I think the called for is Weeks Cocoa or something similar. It is Weeks Cocoa, yes. But just crazy, crazy colors, so I wanted to use something dark. And I absolutely love how this looks. Now, I did put this away a couple days ago because I thought, well, I'm getting a little tired. I'm still excited about it, but it is slow going because there's so much packed in there. And even these large letters here, they're done with cross stitch over 2, but then there is a ton of back stitching over the top, which makes a really cool effect. but it just makes everything take longer. So can you see here? You can probably see on this one best. You stitch the D in this periwinkle color, but then you go over it all again with red. And so because of how much back stitching there is, you're basically stitching each of those big letters about 1.5 times. And so it is slow going. Tons of eyelets, which again, I absolutely love. It's a bit agonizing on my fingers, but it looks really, really good. Here are the colors. Oh gosh. These boxes are from Gutermann. I will put that name in the description box below. Beautiful, beautiful colors. So I think actually, even though I pulled something else out to work on because it was relatively close to a finish, I do want to get back to this. I want to see this done this year. I believe I started this in July of last year. I think it was near the end of July. I have it written down somewhere. And I would love to have this finished before end of July this year. I think that's doable. But I have to work on this almost monogamously like I did with William. Yeah. One other thing I forgot to mention about William is because this sawtooth border goes all the way across, I thought, well, I have to work it in a way that will allow me to get the sawtooth, these long sawtooth bands done without having to put any of it under a hoop. So what I ended up doing was purchasing this hoop from Hoop and Frame. From Hoop and Frame. This is a Hardwicke Manor hoop. I purchase all of my hoops from Hoop and Frame. If you have any questions about the tools that I use, please check out my All About Needlework Tools video. I will link that below. And in the description box of that video, you will find links to everything you want. But this is a 10-inch square hoop, and it turned out to be absolutely perfect for completing these sawtooth satin stitched bands on 46 count. Now, if you were doing this on 40 count or something even lower, I'm not quite sure that that would work out well. In the end though, even though I even said in one of my Stitch With Me videos that I didn't want to put any of my satin stitching under a hoop, in the end though, I did, at the very end, I took it out of this hoop because it was just kind of awkward to work with something so large, even having it in my Pataki stand. And so at the end, I had to finish this bird. I think that was the last thing I did. And so I had this teeny tiny little round hoop, and I just stuck it on here, and I covered, I had to put my satin stitching underneath that hoop, and it was fine. Turned out fine. Perhaps if my satin stitches were a little bit looser, they could have been pulled out a little bit more to the front. It would have caused problems and made them look a bit untidy and uneven. But my tension's pretty good on those satin stitches. So, and I didn't crank too hard on the hoop there, just enough so that I could get that bird in with proper tension, get it all done. And then, as I say, I ironed this piece and everything turned out just fine. But if you were interested and you yourself were questioning how to get all of that satin stitch done without having to put a hoop on it. Also, if you have a frame, stretcher bars, anything like that, you guys will have no problems, but I don't have that option. And I really like to use hoops. So, and I figured it wasn't bad to have that in my stash for future projects that have long bands that I don't want to see interrupted. But back to the Alexanders. This is, if I didn't say already, this is Alexanders of Lintrathen. This is from Hands Across the Sea Samplers. Absolutely love this chart. It's one of the first hats charts I ever got. I know my mom gifted me the chart and absolutely love it. But it is dense stitching. There's a lot going in there. This was several episodes of Agatha Christie's Poirot in here, I'll tell you that. Absolutely beautiful. So I do think it's possible to get it done by the end of July. Whether or not that will actually happen, I have no idea. But I have gotten down to here and done, yes, here. So I think I'm about 20% of the way through. That's pretty good. And I've only put about a week into it. I'm excited to get down to here and do these weird curly Q letters. And then get down here and these weird people and big fat peacock. It's so weird. Just for those who are curious, the design area on this is 215 wide by 203. So it's not particularly large, but again, it is chock full of stuff. And it has cross stitch over 2, a small amount of cross stitch over 1. That is this little section right here. It also has Algerian eyelets, which I talked about, double running stitch or back stitch. It also has stem stitch though, which it doesn't say on the back of this, but it does. And that is right here. This is supposed to be done stem stitch right here. And you'll notice that I have not actually done that yet. I've looked up what the stem stitch is. I was pretty sure I knew what it was. I looked it up to refresh myself. I'm going to attempt it, but it also may be that I do as much as I can on the rest of the chart and then bring this to Hobby House in September and ask Nicola in person, because I have looked in this booklet and there's no information on stem stitch. So on the off chance that there's just something I'm missing, maybe I should ask her in person. But you can see on the front that it's just lines right there. So it shouldn't be particularly complicated. Also, I could just do back stitch instead of stem stitch. We'll see. But widely available, should be able to get that at your local needlework shop, or you can order it directly from the Hats website. That's it. Those are the 3 things I worked on. That's it. So let's get into purchases, I guess. Okay, now on my last episode, I talked about how I ordered some needle minders from Bothy Threads. Well, they finally came. It took about a month for me to get them, so I had them just after that last Flosstube episode. But these are from Bothy Threads, Wallace Gromit. I'm a big Wallace and Gromit fan. I didn't buy any of the kits that are available. They are on printed Aida, and while they look really cute, it's just not something that I want to stitch. But the needle minders, I needed the needle minders, and I will say they are really good quality. I purchased 3 of them. I have this one, and then Feathers McGraw, who has been in use, but is today living on the lamp. And then this is Gromit in his little dog house. So cute. And there is one more available that is just Wallace, if you're so inclined. But very cute, and they each came in one of these adorable little envelopes. So good for gift giving if you have a Wallace and Gromit fan stitcher in your life. As I say, they do also have kits as well. I placed an order from Be Beautiful Sip and Stitchery. They are in Roscoe, Illinois. This is a recommendation from my friend Georgia. So I went onto the website and she's got a cart system, so very easy to order. I ordered 2 pieces of linen, both 56 count that I didn't need, but these were colors that I didn't have and I thought they would be lovely to have in stash. This is 56 count pamplemousse, kind of a peachy pink. And it is pamplemousse. It's a French word. I think it's a cantaloupe, some kind of fruit or melon. But peachy pink. Okay, I think that's pretty true right there. Very pretty. And then this is 56 count cat's whiskers, also from Tabby Cat. Just the lightest blue. You can see my shirt is white, and this is the palest blue. So I think either of these would be really good for samplers. Kind of putting them together makes you think baby boy, baby girl, but individually, you could use them for samplers, you could use them for seasonal pieces. I really like those colors. And she shipped very quickly, very, very quickly. All right, I have mentioned before many times, not just on this video, but on other videos, the Friends of Hands Across the Sea Samplers Facebook group. If you're on Facebook and you're a hats fan, you really should be on that group just so that you're staying up to date on things. Even if you don't, even if you aren't interested in purchasing every little thing that is released, it's just good to know when releases are coming. This one, Isabella Henry, 1844. This one was released through that group. I believe it was the Friday before Memorial Day. And it's a Hobby House exclusive. And David from Hobby House posted in that group that the information for those group members so that they would have an opportunity to order it before the release just a couple days later. So sometimes information will be put up about a piece and members of that group will have like a month before it goes on general release. This one was just a couple days, but it was still nice to have the option to be able to order it before, you know, the whole wild world knew about it, because I figured I would be very likely, if I wanted to order any of the kit supplies with it, to get those pretty quickly before they kind of ran low of stock. And sure enough, I placed my order the day that I saw this come available. And I got the chart as well as the threads, and I got it all in less than a week. It shipped, I think, a day or two after, well, maybe it shipped the day or the Monday after I ordered it. No, that would have been Memorial Day. What am I thinking? Anyway, I got it really quickly. So you can see Isabella Henry, 1844. Because there are so few colors, there are only 9 colors, I believe, here. And this one is actually only used for about a dozen stitches. This may be one that if you have a good stash, you can kit up from stash. Whether you have a stash of 103s or Soie d'Alger or DMC, it will be pretty easy to kit up, I believe. But beautiful Scottish sampler, and it is Ada friendly. So if you are an Ada stitcher or you are just one who shies away from any over 1 stitching, you can do this. And I think it's just gorgeous. The called for is linen from Weeks, and that is the color of linen. It's linen from Weeks Dye Works. I actually have that, but only in 32 count because I bought it years ago for some Just Nan projects, some little mice. But I pulled this from stash. This is 46 count Eleanor's Ivory from Swan Bay Fabrics. Yes, Eleanor's Ivory right there. And of course, named after Eleanor Dashwood. Yeah. And the piece isn't overly large. The stitch count is 180 by 256. So not huge. And on 46 count, it will be about 7 3/4 by 11 1/4-ish. Good size. So I was thinking about starting this like the day I got it, but I thought, calm down, Audrey. Let's go through your whips and see what you got. So maybe I do push on and continue stitching on the Alexanders, and then when I finish that, I can start this, or you know, I just started this today. I don't know. Absolutely beautiful. So this is widely, or I shouldn't say widely available. I should say if you go to the Hobby House website now, you could just see it there on the website. You don't need a special link through the Facebook group to access this product. And you can get just the chart. You can get chart with threads, chart with linen, chart with threads and linen. It's all up to you. I chose to order the chart and the threads. Even though I probably didn't need these, it just made it easier on myself, and there weren't so many colors that it was cost prohibitive. The fabric though, I have a ton of fabric. If you watched my video from Country Sampler, you know that I had a great time there spending so much money on fabric. I bought so much fabric. So StitchCon is coming up next week. I leave on Wednesday. Are we leaving on Wednesday? And I'm kind of hoping I buy nothing. I'm kind of hoping that I buy nothing and it's just like a fun retreat, hanging out with friends and stuff, and doesn't actually cost me any money. That'd be great. Okay, my last purchase is a beautiful one. Oh my goodness. Okay, this is a Stitchfolk bag. You all know what this is. Barry of Stitchfolk had a drop just last week and I was able to snag one. And then tomorrow, Saturday, June 6th, she has another bag drop for Beatrix Potter themed pieces, bags like this. So instead of a panel like this that says Focus Project, or one of her Mildred panels, something like that, they're Beatrix Potter illustration panels, and so cute. And then she's got floral fabrics around them. So if you have purchased a Stitchfolk bag before, then you know the drill. If you have not purchased a Stitchfolk bag, I recommend following her on Instagram at Stitchfolk, and then at the time of the drop, be on her website a couple minutes before she says things are going to be up and available. And that way, at the time that she says things will be released, you can just refresh the page. My greatest piece of advice is to just scan what's there, pick one, add it to cart, check out. Don't spend time clicking on a product, looking it over, going back, clicking on another product, looking it over, and then kind of making a decision and trying to add multiple things to your bag. That will not work. If it does, that would be amazing. But I think your best bet, if you've never been able to snag one and you're feeling frustrated, I understand you, I hear you. There are many times that I have tried to purchase a bag from her drops and I don't, and it's okay, because that's just the universe telling me I don't need to spend that money, right? But if you'd like to try tomorrow for a Beatrix Potter bag, I suggest hit the website right on time, pick one, doesn't even matter, just add it to cart. You'll be happy with whatever it is and go through the checkout process. After you've gone through the checkout process, then you can go back and see if there's anything left. And you can always try again. But love Barry's bags. She makes them with really nice, substantial padding and very high quality fabrics, nice big YKK zippers, and I'm never disappointed. She had, I think it was sometime in April, she had a drop that I missed out on. Well, the thing was, I didn't set my alarm, and it was like 7 minutes after the hour, and I was like, I'm not even gonna bother looking because there's gonna be nothing left at 7 minutes after. But that's what I got. Okay, the last thing that I have to show you guys are my two, I wanna show you the whole tray actually. I got two more animal crackers back from Greta at Stitchwork Design Co. And I have made this little arrangement, my summer arrangement, and I have this on the dining room table. And I've got this big, whoops, well, Gertie just leapt out of the tray. I'll pick her up in a moment. This strawberry is actually done with wool hooking. And I purchased this from Forgotten Times in Plymouth, Wisconsin. It's done by a woman named Joanne Zahoric, I think. If that's not right, I'll put her actual name right here, but I'm pretty sure that's right. If you search Forgotten Times on Facebook, you'll be able to see when they get new stock. It's an antique shop. You'll be able to see when they get new stuff in store. And they also always do posts when they get more stuff from Joanne. She does seasonal stuff. She does like cutesy stuff. I have a few of her pieces and I just love them. A lot of these pieces were finished by Faye Rigsby, and you will have heard me talk about her. This piece actually was stitched by my son Morris, probably, was it 2 years ago? And then the finishing was done by my mother. And then these pins, these little strawberry pins, were made by Jackie Comfort Stitching. And I told Morris, I said, they just need to live in your pillow. I think that would be absolute perfection. This is a strawberry that I made from a Mary Jo Heine kit. And I have talked about Mary Jo a few times on my channel. She makes these wonderful velvet, I am switching my letters up here, wonderful velvet kits. Strawberries, acorns, birds, all sorts of things. So I thought I'd do a little red arrangement with my latest animal crackers. This is Reynard, and these are, of course, charts by Stacey Nash. I'm sure we're all familiar with them at this time. I changed everything about Henny Penny here, who I call Gertie, even changed her name. This is my own Roxy Floss Co conversion. I've talked about this quite a bit in the past, so I don't know that I need to go over it again. Information is in a post on Instagram. And then I sent the fabric to Greta for for the chicken as well as for Reynard the fox. I added these little buttons. This was another Roxy Floss Co conversion, but this one I made look like the cover model. So I chose threads from Roxy that were very close to what Stacy called for. And Greta just did an excellent job finishing those up. And for those of you who are wondering, the skunk was very well received. I finally got to meet my nephew on Memorial Day weekend. It was wonderful. He is a very happy, very large 9-month baby. He's so big, and not like chunky big, but just like, this kid's gonna be tall. So very big, very happy, and I gave him a skunk and he was chewing away. And I have photos of us together and him chewing on this skunk, little James chewing on his skunk, but I don't know that I have permission from Mom and Dad to share photos of him. So I sent that photo to some friends and they got a good kick out of it. And boy, he's just so cute. And I told his mom, Megan, my sister-in-law, I gave it to her. She was like, oh my God, it's a skunk wearing a sweater. And I said, I know, it's wearing a sweater. It's so ridiculous. And I told her, I said, you know, it's going to get chewed on. It's going to get dirty. It's going to get loved. And that's really my hope for it. So Reynard here and little Gertie, they will have a much cleaner, easier life. But I like to think that Sugar the skunk, or whatever they name it, is going to be well loved. And I told her if it kind of starts to, you know, fall apart or whatever, you can stitch it up, fix it, whatever. As long as the dogs don't get to it, that's really the main concern. All right. So plans that I have, as I mentioned, I'm going to StitchCon next week. I was going to say I have no idea what to expect. I have a little bit of an idea of what to expect. I really, my hope for that weekend is that it's just fun to sit around and chat and stitch with my friends. That's it. That's what I'm hoping to get out of that weekend. I really don't need to do any shopping. And there are no kits or anything, which actually is good. And I'm just looking to have a good time. I do have a planned start there. I have talked about this before. I am planning to start Houses of Hawk Run Hollow. Jem of Stitch and Gem and Stephanie of Cross Stitch the Globe, they each have Hawk Run Hollows that need to be started. I think Stephanie's is one that needs to be restarted. And so we kind of agreed that we would do this at StitchCon. As I say, I've chosen Houses of Hawk Run Hollow. I will put an image of the chart here in case you're not familiar with that. I have chosen 40 count Valley Forge as my fabric. I don't remember what the called for is. I think it's a lakeside that's impossible to get. So I figured just picking a nice buttery cream color like this would be perfect. And I did have to get a fat half because that chart is so big. It is so big. I pulled my own Roxy Floss from Stash. Now I say this because I suspect, you know, this is what I have chosen. However, I suspect there will be some changes made. The one that I really needed to finalize was the color that will be used to outline all the boxes, all the blocks. Even in the chart, it says block 1, block 2, etc. And I do love this color. This is Christmas Bells. This is a one of a kind. So recently, and I've already put everything away, so I can't really show you that either. But recently I bought a bunch more one of a kind from the Evertote.ca website. That's where you can get Roxy Floss threads and fabrics. And I just kind of went through and was like, looked at all the, if you just search OOAK, which stands for one of a kind, if you just search OOAK on the Evertote.ca website, it'll show you every one of a kind thread and fabrics as well. But there are usually only a few fabrics that fall into that category. And so I just compared what they had available to what I already had in Stash, and then I basically ordered what I didn't have. And this was one of them, Christmas Bells. I was sort of deciding between this and Looney, another one of a kind, but ultimately I think this is what I want to use to outline the blocks on Houses of Hawk Run Hollow. I will put this up here for you if you are interested. You can take a screenshot. Good luck reading that. This is what I have decided as of right now. As I say, things might change. I'm going to bring this to StitchCon, but if I'm not happy with the colors that I've chosen for any particular part of that block, then I can just work on another piece that I plan on bringing to StitchCon. I'm either going to bring, in addition to this, Mary Slade or Jane Wood. Jane Wood I'm thinking about bringing because it's big and I would like to get some progress made on it. I would like to finish that this year. And the two aforementioned friends, they're also working on Jane Wood. But Mary Slade is so much smaller. It's so much smaller. And I think like if that was the only thing that I worked on besides this for that long weekend, I could really see some great progress made on that. So we'll see. Who knows what I'll actually end up taking to StitchCon, but it's really just going to be two projects. It's going to be Houses of Hawk Run Hollow and these colors you see here. And it may be that I bring these on one ring and then go through my stash and just pull a bunch of other stuff just to have with me, but I don't even think I need to do that. I think while I'm there, if I'm stitching this and find that I'm not happy with a color, then I'll just stitch a different section and do that, or pull out Mary Slade or Jane Wood, whichever one I end up taking with me. But that's it. That's all my plans so far. So we'll see what I get up to next time, or what I will have worked on by the time I have another update for you guys. No Stitch With Me video tomorrow because, well, you're getting this Flosstube video from me and I just don't have the time. I don't have the time. And also the rest of the day, I don't know what I'm going to want to work on. I might just do that thing where you just dig through your stash. I also thought that I should probably take inventory of my fabric. There's a lot of it now, especially after that trip to Country Sampler. And, you know, I went to the attic in January and bought quite a bit of fabric there as well. So as I say, I could keep busy with what I have for the next decade if I really needed to. Before I let you guys go, though, I wanted to mention two other floss tubers. Charlie, Stitching with Charlie. I have mentioned her before, but the last few episodes, I have been meaning to mention her, and inevitably I get to the end of an episode, I say bye, and then I look at my notes and I'm like, oh, forgot to mention Charlie. So Stitching with Charlie, she is a UK-based, very young, very enthusiastic stitcher who just likes to try a bunch of different things. She's only been stitching a little over a year, and something that she started last summer and will be doing again this summer is called Just Finish June, July, or Just Finish it June and July. So the idea, if I understand it correctly, is to go through your whips and ask yourself, what's close to being finished and just needs to be brought to the finish line and would only take like a few days or a couple weeks or something. Pull those things out and get them done, you know, get that out of your whip pile. So that's something that Charlie is doing for June and July. I would check out her channel. She's just fun to listen to. She's very enthusiastic and she shows a lot of different colorful projects, all sorts of things. I will link her channel below. The next person that I wanted to mention was Leah Bloom. She is the Blooming Stitcher. She just put out her 3rd episode this morning. And she is, I believe, based in Colorado, but she is from somewhere else because that accent is not from Colorado. That accent is not from Colorado. I remember Jem and I were in the apartment above Country Sampler the weekend that we were there hanging out and having fun and stitching. And one night we're like, okay, well, let's go through Flosstube. And we had seen, like, we've seen this person, we watched this person, we've seen this person, we watched this person. And then we saw Leah and you know, she looks very nice. She had a nice thumbnail. And so this is one of those things I was talking about on my how to make better videos thing, like have a nice thumbnail. Her thumbnail was very nice. We're like, oh, let's click on her. And so we started watching her and she was nice to listen to. But one of the first people that she mentioned was Jem. And so Jem was like, oh, it was very funny. But we had a good time watching her and kind of oohing and awing and listening to her talk about her journey. And since then, I have watched Flosstube number 2. It was great. And she is not just a stitcher, kind of a new stitcher actually, but she's a quilter and has been quilting for, I think she said almost 2 decades. So she's she's very familiar with sewing, needlework, all that stuff. but nice to listen to. And as I said, just put out her 3rd episode earlier today. So I will link her below as well. That is Leah, the Blooming Stitcher. If you have any recommendations for me, anyone that you think I should be watching and may not be, may have missed, you are welcome to recommend them or yourself below in the comments. So, and if you have any other questions or comments, you can leave those here. Of course, you can also find me on Instagram at StitchStitchBead if you would rather send a private message, and you can also email me. I will leave my email address in the drop-down box below. If you do have questions about things that I have shown in this video, please check the drop-down box first. But if you can't find what you're looking for there, then feel free to leave a comment. But I hope to have a regular Flosstube video for you guys again, maybe later this month, because I will have gone to StitchCon. And I will also be visiting the Threadworks Fair in New Harmony, Indiana later this month. That's, I think, the weekend of the 19th, 20th. I have submitted my entries. I will be entering 3 framed reproduction samplers, all hats, of course, because that's what I have framed. That's what was ready to go. So I'll give you guys, I'll let you guys know how that goes. I have no idea what to expect. I don't know. We'll see. But so next week you can expect a Stitch With Me video as normal, Saturday morning at 9 a.m. Eastern. You know, I try to put those out on time Saturday mornings on the weeks that I have not put out a regular Flosstube episode. But rambling on now, so I'm just going to let you guys go. I'll talk to you next time, and very happy stitching.